All right, everybody, we're back here again. It is now October the 16th, so we're already halfway through October. And here we go again. It's, getting close to that early front runner stage here in the Oscar race. So, has been a little bit since the last video, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll take care of three things here today. First of all, I always do a video like right as the New York Film Festival is still going on, so that's kind of why I waited this long to do the video. So the New York Film Festival is over. So we'll kind of get a recap there. And I've got the list pulled up here of what showed and what the ratings were and stuff based off Rotten Tomatoes scores and everything. And really, I think all these films had already played before, so there weren't any like huge premieres there, but there were films that I think we got more reviews on and a little bit more in depth of maybe how the general critic audience is going to view the film. Second of all, I'm going to go through the top 8 categories one more time for the Oscars. A few changes here and there. The Best Actress race, I think, is pretty fluid right now, so there were some changes I made to that, so we're going to go over that. And then I'm going to also go over my earliest picks in the for the Golden Globes this year. Just, kind of first glance looks and see, okay, who's kind of where and stuff. I was going to say last year, I don't think we had too many like significant changes last year late in the Globes race. Like there wasn't any major comedy contenders that went over to drama or vice versa. And just based off how they have it right now on a lot of sites like Gold Derby, I don't see a lot of questionable calls. I don't see a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I can totally see this changing. No, I feel like they've got a pretty good angle on it there. So, yeah. And one of the things, since it is here in the Midwest, the temperatures are kind of finally starting to settle into fall type weather. My allergies always give me hell in this time, so my throat's kind of closed up a little bit this week. So if my voice sounds a little off, or if my taking more breaths or something, that's why. So it kind of started acting up here just over the weekend. So it's not like sometimes I also get like a cold on top of that, but not. Yeah, I don't have any other symptoms of anything like that. So yeah, this happens almost every year, so I'm not terribly worried about it. But if I sound a little off in this video, that's why. Okay, so let's start with the New York Film Festival recap here. And this should go fairly quick, because again, all these films are ones we've seen premiere at other festivals, so really we're just getting a little bit more in-depth of the reviews, and more people are seeing them. So I think this is, for the most part, alphabetical, except for one little section. All the Strangers, still performing very well here, 98%. It's an 8.6 out of 10 average rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's still very strong based off of its TIFF performance. So we didn't see too many detractors go in there after that. Again, I think Andrew Scott is really the one candidate, kind of a dark horse candidate that everybody's talking about for this film, but that's really about it, unless it sneaks into the adapted screenplay category. So I don't know if we learned very much about that one. We had Anatomy of a Fall also at this one. That was pretty much at every other film festival this year, including Cannes, of course, the Palme d'Or winner. And it's also now in select theaters, so I think most every critic body that's going to see it has access to it now, unless you're in a very regionalized area where it's not going to play for a while. So it's still 96%. Average rating is 8.5 out of 10. Again, we didn't really learn too much about this one. I feel like it's it's a really solid contender. The only thing, it did not get picked by, I think it was France. France went with something else for their international candidate this year. So Anatomy of a Fall is really going to have to rely on Neon's really smart campaigning to get the potential bids in the top categories. It's not going to be one like Drive My Car or Parasite, recent examples of films that have gotten to that Best Picture nomination based off of also being up for international film, and then maybe one or two other ones depending on what they qualified for. We did see this last year, though, with Triangle of Sadness, don't forget. So Triangle of Sadness was not eligible for a foreign category or whatever, international category. So that one did have the strength to pull through for screenplay, director, picture. So I think Anatomy of a Fall, too, at this point in the race, we're talking a lot more about that film than we were about Triangle of Sadness this time last year. That's a really, really strong sign. And it's also, I think, maybe a few people this time last year were saying, okay, maybe Triangle of Sadness has an outside shot at picture, screenplay, it looks okay, it might get maybe one acting category or something. Right now, we're pretty solid on it on Anatomy of a Fall, getting like a an acting nomination. I don't know about screenplay. Screenplay is going to be a little tougher, I think. Which one is it in again? Is it an original? It is an original. Okay, for some reason I thought it was an adapted. I was like, that adapted category could be a little tougher to get into. But no, screenplay I think it's probably solid in then. For some reason I brain fogged it into adapted. Director, it's got a solid shot. Might not be perfect, but I think it's got a really solid shot. Maybe even some tech categories it might sneak into, like the editing category. It could get in there. I've heard a few people say cinematography. I've heard a few people say possibly, what was the other one that they were championing it in? I don't think it'd be in like one of the design categories. Maybe like a makeup or something they were trying to get it into. But obviously a lot of these are shortlisted categories too when we get down to it. So we'll have to wait on those. But I feel like we're talking a little more broadly about this film at this point compared to this point last year for Triangle of Sadness. So that's always a good sign. Then we have Evil Does Not Exist. Speaking of Drive My Car, that's Hamaguchi's follow-up. 93%, 7.4 out of 10 average rating, so not quite as high of a critical praise as the last film as Drive My Car. But one clarification, this was picked up. It was actually picked up back in August. I just hadn't found it. Janus Films, which also did Drive My Car, the U.S. distribution for Drive My Car. So that one does have a distributor, it just does not have a release date. So I'm guessing Janus is going to try to slate it here as, as a late November, early December, maybe mid-December. But if they don't announce that pretty soon, I'm going to be a little more shaky and say, okay, they might just push that off to sometime in 2024, and it won't play for this year's Oscars. And that one as well, I believe, was not picked up by its international feature, whichever country it was again. I think that'd have to be Japan, right? Or is it Korea? I can't remember. But yeah, so that one is also going to have to get in without the support of that category. Next up would be Michael Mann's Ferrari, which is at 75%. Average rating is 6.3 out of 10. So I feel like that's about what it was off of the Venice reviews as well, so that one didn't get a major bump or anything. Yeah, I did see the trailer in front of, oh geez, which movie was that? I think it was Dumb Money. I saw the trailer in front of it. So yeah, I did see a couple movies as well, so we might briefly talk about them as well. Just, not full reviews, just a couple quick things. But yeah, 6.3 out of 10 is the average rating. I'm not very high on this film's chances this year. I feel like Neon, especially if they do have Anatomy of a Fall, I feel like that's got to be their bigger player this year. Yeah, that's my thinking at least. Next up would be May December, which is a 92%. Average rating is 7.9 out of 10. So again, I feel like that's about what it was off of, that was a Telluride, right? That might have been Telluride in Venice. But yeah. Again, I feel like that one, early on, I thought it had a legitimate shot to be like a Best Picture, actress, supporting actress, possibly even director, screenplay, dominating in those top categories. But I don't know, I feel like we've had a couple winds of change come in on that film, so I'll tell you about that one later. Perfect Days, the Wim Wenders film, 91%, average rating is still 7.5 out of 10. I still feel like this could be a sneaky Best Director, Best Picture thing, kind of like Triangle of Sadness last year. So I'm not going to put that one away just quite yet. So yeah, that's my feeling on that one. But again, I feel like that one hasn't moved very much either. Poor Things, 98%, and I believe that's about what it was off of Telluride and Venice. 9.1 is the average rating out of 10. That might have gone up ever so slightly or about the same. And that one I've even heard, if you weren't in New York or you weren't in Venice or you weren't in Telluride, there's actually a few other bigger cities that are doing some critic screenings actually around this time, or they're about to happen. So that's a good sign. It's not going to be released until December, which I feel like is more of a play by, this one's Searchlight, isn't it? I think it's Searchlight. I need to remind myself here. Is this a Searchlight one, or is it... Because they had The Favorite, if I remember right. Yes, this is also Searchlight. Yeah, I feel like releasing it in December is probably the better play. The favorite, if I remember, was a late November, early December release. So, and that one panned out pretty well. Got a major upset win in Best Actress, of course. So, yeah. So this one, I feel like, that's solid. Now, it was supposed to be a September release, but then they pushed it back. I think we talked about it at the time, but there were a lot of rumors about why that was. Some people saying they just, Searchlight was just very unhappy with the film and they needed to make drastic changes and stuff. Clearly, that was not the case. So this is more a player for, hey, let's just make sure we slot it at the right time for release so it doesn't get just in case it happened to be coming out here in late September, early October, in case the box office wasn't there. That way it doesn't, we don't have that, sinking feeling going into the race to awards nominations and stuff. All right. We got 6 left. Okay, Priscilla is next, 93%. Average rating is 7.6 out of 10. So if anything, I think maybe the average rating dropped a little bit on that one, but tomato meter score is about the same. Yeah, I don't think that one's getting like a major push. I feel like Cailee Spaeny is still something of a dark horse, something of an outside contender in Best Actress, which again is starting to really become a more fluid category. So I wouldn't write her off just yet, but I'm not feeling like she's a certainty at this point. Zone of Interest, also screened here, 95%. Average rating is 8.9 out of 10. So again, didn't really learn too much about that one. I still suspect this one's going to be in play for a lot of major awards. The Boy and the Heron, 99%. Average rating is still 8.6 out of 10, so that's about what it was off of TIFF, rather. Yeah, still feels like animated feature. It's a slam dunk to at least be nominated. Now, of course, how much Meizuki love are we going to get over there in that specific category where it's going to be enough broad support to overcome something like Spider-Man potentially? We'll see. I'm not very, I'm not feeling very lucky on that one if I'm Boy and the Heron. Foe, I think we did mention this one in the preview, but this one, even though it's from Gareth Davis and it has a few recognizable actors in it, 23%, average rating 4.5 out of 10, so that one crashed and burned. And I feel like that one's also in limited release now, and I haven't seen any figures, so I as far as how it's doing, so I'm guessing not extremely well. So yeah, I wouldn't guess anything on that one. Hitman, 97%, 8.4 out of 10, the average rating. Richard Linklater's new film, and this one I feel like it's really lost in the shuffle right now. I'm not hearing too many people talk about it. It's a Netflix film, and Netflix has quite a few other contenders out there this year. The next one we're going to talk about is probably their top contender. That was also at New York Film Festival. So, yeah, especially if you're going to put all your money into Bradley Cooper for lead actor, yeah, that really hurts Glenn Powell, who I think was probably the one shot the film had from what I'm hearing. So Maestro is also at TIFF, or at New York, sorry. 86%, average rating is 7.7 out of 10. So I think there were a couple more negative reviews that came in on this one. So if I remember right, this one was closer to like a 91 or a 90 last time we checked on it. But I think that average rating is about steady. So that's a good sign, generally speaking. It's like, hey, those that like it still really like it, and those that don't like it, they don't absolutely hate it. Because again, I always say you want to be a film that's either really, really liked or really, really hated in the Oscar race if you have a particular category you're shooting for. So, and I don't think we're quite there with Maestro. I think Maestro still really stands a chance at being like in that second tier of like most nominated films, getting up to like the 6, 7, 8 total nominations. So about that's about what, maybe one or two more than Star is Born got. Because yeah, that's the thing with this one being more of a period piece, you have a better shot at getting stuff like costume design, production design, stuff like that for Maestro, versus Star is Born was more contemporary, so that really had to rely on your acting categories, screenplay, song, and picture, and then it missed out on director, of course. But yeah. All right, so yeah, so there not a whole lot of like breaking news out of New York Film Festival this year, but yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, we're going to move on now to some updates here in our Oscar list as far as who is where on the list and as far as who's in and who's out. A few changes here and there. So Oppenheimer is still my number 1. Killers of the Flower Moon still number 2. I'm looking forward. That comes out this Friday, so I'll see it probably early next week. But I'm I'm anticipating that one very heavily now. It's I've seen more of the ads for it and more of the trailers in front of other movies and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for this one. I think it's gonna be very good. Poor Things I've moved up to number 3. I had that a little lower in the list last time. Um, yeah, I think Oppenheimer and Flower Moon are both going to fight for most nominations, but Poor Things could be one of those things. Maybe sneaks into a couple categories late, and all of a sudden, maybe it's like a three-way tie for most nominations, or in that neighborhood. Maybe it's like, okay, if Oppenheimer, what do we shoot at 13 for that one, for example, if it gets okay, time out here. let's kind of potentially Oppenheimer could get picture, director, 3 acting categories, screenplay, cinematography, film editing, production design, costume design, visual effects, score, makeup. I think that's probably sound. So that's if I didn't mention that one already. So that'd be 14, 13, or 14 if I didn't count the sound category twice. Yeah, because it's definitely in the sound category for sure. So if that one leads, Killers of the Flower Moon could be right behind it. That could also get potentially three acting nominations: director, picture, screenplay. That's 6. Probably cinematography, editing could sneak into sound. That'd be 9. Production design, costume design would be 11. We'll see. Since the composer for the film actually passed away, there might be some sympathy votes in the score category, because that was like the one spot that I think The Irishman almost got no love last time. But we'll see. It's Robbie Richardson, I think, or it's somebody like that. It's a Robbie or a Richardson or something. Now, there's another cinematographer that has a close name to that. So that's when I first read the news that he passed away. I was like, oh wait, the cinematographer? Oh no. He's a great cinematographer, but no, it was the guy who did the score for Irishman and maybe 1 or 2 other Scorsese films. So that one's still, I'm counting it at that 12, maybe 13 level, so that's going to be very, very close. Poor Things, okay, if it gets, again, potentially, I'm not there yet on Willem Dafoe, but if it gets at least 2 acting nominations, director, picture, screenplay would be 5, costume design, production design for sure would be 7, 8 probably with cinematography. Maybe it's an outside contender for visual effects. It looks like there's some effects in the film. Makeup, I think it's got a strong chance there. That'd be 10. Yeah, and if I didn't mention film editing yet, I think film editing would be one. So that's getting into that 11, possibly 12 nomination range. So I think those 3 are all going to be kind of grouped together in that range. Let's see, so those are my top 3. Then we have The Color Purple at number 4. And I might have this one just a tad bit high. Maybe in the coming days I'll drop it a spot or 2. But yeah, I think this one. I think for this one, it's I did see this. I think it's the second trailer that came out here about a week ago or so. And it looks like it's a more fun movie, definitely than the first one. But I'm sure it's still going to have its more serious moments, of course. But it doesn't really look like they're advertising Taraji P. Who's the lead actress contender in that again? I'm blanking on her name. It's Fantasia Barrino. They're not really highlighting her as much in the trailer. It's more, Taraji P. Henson, yeah, and Daniel Brooks, yeah, and Coleman Domingo, yeah. It's like some of the names that we're maybe a little more familiar with. Yeah, we'll maybe that doesn't boast her odds extremely well in Best Actress for sure, but yeah, it still looks like it's going to be a solid production and stuff. And I can see that one. Okay, it gets like a picture nomination, it gets maybe an acting nomination or 2, and after that, it'll get a few below the line stuff, but it's not going to be a strong bet for screenplay, I'll bet. Probably not a strong bet at this point for director, but it could be. We might change our tune on that later. Yeah, so that could end up getting like more of that 6, 7 nomination range, whereas earlier I was thinking closer to double digits for that one. But who knows? We got a little ways to go before that one comes out. Maestro is my number 5. This one I'm starting to think also is going to be in that very solid second tier range for nominations. I'm still betting on American Fiction for the moment, our TIFF Audience Award winner. I feel like that one's going to be in enough categories that it's going to be in there. Barbie is number 7 for me. Then we have Past Lives at number 8, so that one did drop a little bit. I still think it's got enough critical support, enough early support where it can get into the nominations, but it's not going to be a super large threat outside of one or two categories. Um, I'm still hanging on to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at number 9, but realistically that's more like a number 10 because my actual number 9 would probably be Anatomy of a Fall. So, yeah, with that one, I feel like, yeah, Anatomy of a Fall is a more legit contender across multiple categories than something like Spider-Verse, which, yep, it's going to have animated feature. Yep, it's going to potentially have picture. But where's its other support? Screenplay, it's getting tougher. The sound category, maybe. And then you have maybe original score, and that's really about it. Because yeah, it's not unless it's one of those weird like Koopa and the Two Strings got in for visual effects. Unless it's a weird case like that, but I don't know. Yeah. So a couple other higher up contenders that a lot of other people have that I do not. Probably The Holdovers is still number one for a lot of people. Not as far as like what's going to win, but a lot of people have that one in, and I do not. I don't know. I'm still not totally convinced on this movie, and I could be just dead wrong. I didn't put a few years ago I didn't put Get Out in until it got the SAG nomination for Outstanding Cast, and I'm like, oh, okay, yep, that one's definitely in. And I don't know if it's gonna be that far into the season before I say, yep, The Holdovers is in, because I think at other awards ceremonies, I think it's going to actually do fairly well. Like SAG, I think it's going to have at least one or two categories there. The Globes, in those comedy musical categories, it's going to do pretty well. Yeah, so that one I feel like it's close, but I'm just not there yet. Zone of Interest, I'm also close, but just not there yet. And after that, I feel like they're longer bets, like Saltburn. That one has already kind of fizzled out a little bit. Napoleon, that feels like it's going to be something of an afterthought, especially since Apple is going to put a lot of their forte into Killers of the Flower Moon. And many of those same categories are going to overlap with Killers of the Flower Moon, as far as definitely on the tech side as well. Rustin feels like, yeah, it's going to be Coleman Domingo for Best Actor, and that's probably about it. May, December, yep, that one has really slipped. Nyad, that feels like could be one that would really need a lot of help getting like a screenplay nomination. Ferrari, I'm not very high on. Asteroid City, I'm not very high on. Yeah, so I feel like we're kind of reaching after that. In my director lineup, I have Christopher Nolan out front still for Oppenheimer, then Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, Yorgos Lanthimos in there for Poor Things, Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, and I went with Greta Gerwig now for Barbie. I don't know. Something tells me they're going to want the two female nominees again this year. And I think Greta with Barbie, that feels a little more solid than something like Celine Song at this point for Past Lives, which unfortunately that one has fallen off a bit. Let's see. Otherwise, speaking with female directors, Emerald Fennell for Saltburn feels a little tougher at this point. Yeah. But as far as other potential directors to get in, Jonathan Glazer, I think, has a shot for Zone of Interest. I would not count out Alexander Payne just yet for Holdovers, especially if that one does come back a little stronger than we're expecting. Bradley Cooper, Star is Born missed out on director, and right now Maestro feels like it could potentially get more nominations, but none for Bradley Cooper for directing? That feels a little weird, but I have him out. I have him out at this point. So let's go to the acting categories here. Best Actor, I do have Bradley Cooper out front here. I think the Actors Branch will like him a lot in this film. He's got the makeup with the big nose and everything, so so I feel like that one's going to help for him. But man, I'm still really like Cillian Murphy is still really, really close for me, and that could be one here as we get closer to November. I might switch and put Cillian Murphy out front for Oppenheimer. Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon I have in there as well. In third place, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. So I don't think I made any changes in this one. Giamatti is still in striking distance, of course. Andrew Scott, I think, feels like a dark horse. Joaquin Phoenix, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he makes a couple things, like if he gets a Globe nomination and then a BAFTA nomination or something, and then he could sneak in that way. Otherwise, maybe a couple other outside contenders. Maybe look at Nicolas Cage potentially for Dream Scenario, which is an A24 film that got really good reviews out of TIFF, but I don't know, because I feel like every year, or maybe not every year, but every other year or something, Cage has one out that's a little more like sometimes an offbeat Oscar contender, something like Pig, or what was the other one that he was getting some stuff for? It was kind of like something like a similar like short title or something. And it's like, oh, I heard a couple people say, oh, he's going to get in for this, and I think he got a Critics' Choice nomination for Pig, I think, or something like that. And it's like, nope, it just never fully translated over. So I'll name drop it in case he comes back later on. He could, and the Globes I think is going to be a big spot for him if he can get into the Globes. Yeah, then he's got a much better shot. And then one that'll probably screen very late and just be in time to qualify. That'd be Kingsley Benadir for the Bob Marley One Love movie, which, yeah, from the trailers looks like he's very much transformed into the role and stuff. You hardly even know it's him. You just see Bob Marley, but yeah, that one it'll depend on if it can have that kind of Judas and the Black Messiah, that kind of late push. Obviously, it's not the same subject matters, of course, but that one was a very, very late thing in the major COVID year for the Oscars. So yeah, and that one did have a very good push at the end. And actually, if it had maybe peaked a week or two earlier, that one could have gotten even more stuff than it did. But we'll see. We'll see about that one. For Best Actress, again, I feel like this is the category I've made a few changes in. Annette Bening, I'm still sticking with this Naiad thing with Annette Bening here just for a little bit. I'm glad the narrative is not taken off yet, because if it's like Glenn Close, if that narrative is just too early, then everybody kind of gets sick of it, and they're like, oh, but if I know she's going to win, let's go with something I really like. Obviously we know that year it was Olivia Colman. This year it could be Emma Stone, it could be Lily Gladstone, it could be Carey Mulligan, it could be Sandra Huller, it could be Fantasia Barrino, it could be Greta Lee, it could be Kaylee Spaney. That kind of has that thing where it's like, oh, we all know and we love and we respect Annette Bening, but she wasn't my particular favorite. Let's go with X, and then yeah, you pick anyone else there. But yeah, so it's still a thing out front for now, but I've really not heard way too many people put her out front just yet. But yeah, we'll see. So Sandra Huller is actually in my second position now for Anatomy of a Fall. Emma Stone is third for Poor Things. I have put in Lily Gladstone now for Killers of the Flower Moon, so I was a little iffy about that at first, and I felt like, yeah, she probably would have had a much better shot in supporting actress for actually getting the win. Here in lead actress, she'll be a contender, but I don't see her running the table here. I don't see her running the table. And then in my fifth slot, I'm going to go Carey Mulligan for Maestro. I'm putting her in. So I've dropped Fantasia, I've dropped Greta Lee, and I've dropped Natalie Portman. So there's some big changes there. But those three are still solid in there, and we haven't even gotten to Margot Robbie yet. What about Margot Robbie? She's definitely got a shot here for Barbie. And then you got Kaylee Spaney, you got, I feel like there's one other one that I'm missing, but, no, okay, I think we got them all, yeah. But still, that's 10 contenders right there. So that's, you fill up two, years worth of Best Actress nominees there. So I feel like we kind of get to this point with, it's been this way for maybe the last 5, arguably 10 years of Best Actress, where it's like, okay, early on in the year, yeah, you list all these. Then we get to the actual award shows like SAG and BAFTA and Critics' Choice, and it feels like it really whittles down. And it feels like, okay, we had like 11 or 12 contenders, now we're down to like 4, and one is going to hop around and maybe get into 1 or 2, miss a major one, and then get back in. It's like, it feels like we've been in that cycle for a while. Time will tell if that's going to be the case again this year, but yeah. In supporting actor, I don't think I made way too many changes here. I've got Robert Downey Jr. still out front for Oppenheimer, then Ryan Gosling for Barbie, Mark Ruffalo in third place for Poor Things, Colman Domingo in fourth for Color Purple, and Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon in fifth. So yeah, I'm not biting yet on, because we looked through this last time. I think it's been like 8 years in a row we've had a double nominee in one of these supporting races. Willem Dafoe seems to be like, okay, it's going to be Poor Things that gets that double nomination. Now, just based off the trailers and stuff, I haven't heard, and haven't seen enough from Willem Dafoe to say, oh yeah, he's definitely in. And really, all the reviews, from what I was reading and stuff, it's like, yep, they all praise Emma Stone, they all praise the aesthetics of the film, the costume design, the production design, and they praise Mark Ruffalo. But I've not heard as much praise on Willem Dafoe. And even though, yes, he is very much a character actor, yes, he'll do the small films, the big films, everything. I don't know. If this was more, if this was more like the Florida Project level, where it's like, okay, this could be a career type award, and we're finally going to give him a win, then I would see it. But with this, it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like, yeah, he's second fiddle to Mark Ruffalo. Very much the same way that Jesse Plemons was second fiddle to Cody Smith-McPhee for Power of the Dog, or that Woody Harrelson was second fiddle to Sam Rockwell for Three Billboards, or I don't know, I guess you could... The Favorite, I don't know, you could say you didn't know who first fiddle was on that one. Because at the end, I would have said somebody like Rachel Weisz was more out front than Emma Stone was to be that spoiler to win over, who was our winner that year? Regina King, I think? Yeah, Regina King, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. For this one, I feel like it's a definite dominant one, which is Mark Ruffalo. He's the one that's going to get in no matter what, but yeah. Otherwise, Charles Melton still gets some votes here for May, December. John Magaro I did let go in this category, but he's still got an outside shot. And then Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction is one I'll still keep an eye on here. Definitely keep an eye on him. In Supporting Actress, again, just as a placeholder for now, I'm still not 100% made up my mind in this category, but Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer is my front runner for now. I very much will probably change that one or two more times through the season. Danielle Brooks in second place for Color Purple. I've put in Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers in third, just because Lily Gladstone is out. I couldn't really find another contender to fit in there. There's a little bit we'll get into here. Jodie Foster in fourth for Nyad, and I feel like she's one that might bump up in my list. I might put her a little higher here in the coming weeks. And then Julianne Moore in fifth for May, December. And it feels like for that film, I feel like Julianne Moore has become a little more like, she feels a little more solid. Natalie Portman is in a much more fluid race and a much more packed race. Versus Supporting Actress, yeah, you've got these five. Taraji P. Henson is definitely not out of it, for sure. Just because I don't have her in anymore doesn't mean she's out of it. Viola Davis is always going to be a sneaky contender in these categories, so I would look out for her. And then after that, you got like a couple potential dark horses like Vanessa Kirby and Napoleon, or maybe Scarlett Johansson for Asteroid City. If Sandra Huller somehow got this for Zone of Interest and maybe pulled a double nom, or potentially a double nod, then okay, we'll see. Penelope Cruz possibly for Ferrari, yeah, so it kind of feels like we got some legit dark horses out there that aren't really pulling too much steam right now, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like with this one, I feel like that's kind of where we're at for now. Quickly to the screenplays. We'll start with adapted first. I always do adapted first. Or no, do I do original first? Yeah, I do reverse order. I feel like I put adapted first when I'm working up the order, and original first when I'm going down the order, if that makes sense. Past Lives is still my front runner here for now. Maestro in second, Anatomy of a Fall in third. Just because it is here on Gold Derby, I'm going to put Barbie in fourth, but I do feel like that one is going to get yanked over into the adapted screenplay before we get too far into the season. And then Holdovers in fifth. So when Barbie inevitably gets pulled, who do you fill into that fifth slot? I would probably say it's probably a toss-up between Saltburn, May, December, and Air at this point. Napoleon, Asteroid City, Rustin, a few people have listed. We'll see if Dream Scenario maybe gets in there. That's on the original side. Boy and the Heron, potentially, if that one really takes off, but I don't know that it will. Yeah, so that's that one. On the adapted side, I have Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Zone of Interest, and American Fiction. I feel like those are my five for a little while here at least. All the Strangers has a shot. Spider-Man has a shot. And yeah, I would say something like even Color Purple, it's going to be a harder chance for that one to get in, but I wouldn't totally 100% dismiss it yet. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here with the Golden Globes first kind of first glance here at what I'm thinking in those categories here. Now here's the thing. On Gold Derby now you can predict 6 nominees. That's not an official thing, I don't think. I looked it up for like 10 minutes. one of these other evenings. 'Cause I was like scratching my head because I'm like, at this point, if the Globes had officially announced we're going 6 nominees no matter what, I would have heard it. It would have been everywhere. Now I did hear they're doing like a top blockbuster film award or something, which is okay. You didn't learn anything from when the Oscars said they were going to do that. How much blowback we had. Yeah, okay, Globes. At this point, yeah, after everything that happened with the 2020 scandal and stuff as far as their voting block, I feel like nobody is really paying attention to this organization. And even though they've done some pretty big overhauls as far as the membership number and all that stuff, I just feel like at this point, I mean, they were never the most prestigious award, but it's like at this point, it's really a stretch for anybody to care. So I'm, not really shocked that we haven't heard a lot of people talk about that one and how bad a decision that's going to be. But at this point, yeah, I don't think anybody really cares. So I'm not going to touch that yet as far as like predictions for that category because I don't know what kind of like the Oscars, we didn't know what the rules were. Popular film. Okay, does that mean A Star Is Born could have been nominated that year? Was it only going to be like Jurassic World and Avengers: Infinity War and those films, or what was the thing there? Bohemian Rhapsody could have been a nominee that year. That made almost $1 billion. But that was in Best Picture. So can they only get one? Is it like the old rules here with the Globes as far as international feature versus best film overall in the drama or comedy? I don't know. But anyways, I'll go ahead and just name off the potentially 6. And again, they do have 6 in the event of a tie, but we haven't seen a tie here on the film side, at least for the Globes, in like a decade, more than a decade. I think Django Unchained might have been the last one. That got both Leo and Christoph Waltz in there, I believe. And then the other 4, I think, were the Oscar ones. It was like Alan Arkin, Tommy Lee Jones, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and who's that other guy? Who am I missing? Philip Seymour Hoffman, Tommy Lee Jones, Alan Arkin. Who am I missing? Oh, De Niro, of course. De Niro for Silver Linings Playbook. I knew that. Yeah, I think it was those 6. But anyways, so yeah, I'll just really stick with 5 here and just say if they go 6, and that's kind of how I'll do it. So for picture drama, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Past Lives, and Anatomy of a Fall would be the official 5. If they do go to 6, I'm kind of leaning a little more on May, December here. That could be one that the Globes just kind of go for. It's a movie that's kind of about journalism as well, so they might lean on it that way. Saltburn for the moment is in the drama category. Zone of Interest could very much sneak in there. Napoleon I wouldn't totally count out, and then maybe something like All the Strangers could get a surprise bid here. On the comedy side, I feel like most of these are pretty solid for where they're going to end up. Poor Things out front, Barbie second, The Holdovers third, The Color Purple fourth, American Fiction in 5th. If they do go 6, I think Wonka would be the clear 6. But, that being said, it's way down in some of these odds. Air is high up there on some lists. Flora and Son is up there on a couple, which I haven't heard very much about. And then Next Goal Wins, and Asteroid City, and even something like Dumb Money could potentially be in there. Let's see here. I gotta move around here to find the next one I want to do, and that's Best Director. Christopher Nolan out front here for Oppenheimer, then Scorsese for Flower Moon, Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things. I have Bradley Cooper in here for Maestro. He did get in for Star Is Born, as I recall here at the Globes. Greta Gerwig in 5th for Barbie, and then in 6th place, Alexander Payne for The Holdovers if they go to 6. I don't think they will, but he's gotten a much better thing at the Globes. Like he got in for About Schmidt in 2002, for example, whereas that one at the Oscars, they only gave it, I think it was Kathy Bates and Jack Nicholson, and that was it. Justine Triet is, I would say, still in the hunt there for Best Director at the Globes. Celine Song is still in the hunt. Jonathan Glazer could still get in there for Zone of Interest. And then if they really, really like Color Purple, Blitz Bazawuli could sneak in there for Best Director, but we'll see. Okay, what's next here? Oh, lead categories. Here we go. For lead actor drama, the 5 I would have would be Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Coleman Domingo, Rustin, and Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon. After that, look out for Andrew Scott for All the Strangers. He would be my 6th. Barry Keoghan in 7th for Saltburn. Yeah, obviously they won't go 7, but yeah. And then Adam Driver could get in there for Ferrari. In the actress drama race, again, I have Annette Bening out front here for Nyad, but I have Carey Mulligan actually in 2nd here. Don't forget, Promising Young Woman felt like that was one that I think, and that could be an argument, I think, overall for why some people will say, oh, Carey Mulligan's going to get it this year to make up for her not getting it for Promising Young Woman. Potentially. Because it felt like, especially the Globes, that felt like one where it's like she should have had that on lockdown, it felt like. But nope, didn't happen. So Sandra Huller is in 3rd for me here for Anatomy of a Fall, Natalie Portman in 4th for May December, and I do have Greta Lee in 5th for the moment for Past Lives, and then in 6th I have Lily Gladstone, but I might change that. I might bump her up a little bit. Lily, I might bump her up a little bit. Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla is, I think, also a possibility here. After that, it's a little tougher. A little tougher after that. In the comedy musical category, I have Emma Stone out front for Poor Things, but I feel like this one's going to be much more up in the air. I feel like the next two, I think, have a much stronger, through the season they might, come up there. That's Fantasia Barrino for Color Purple or Margot Robbie for Barbie. Either one of those two I can see coming back and winning the Globe. Especially since Emma Stone, she already has at least one Globe. Didn't she win another one for something? And I've totally forgotten it because she won for La La Land, of course. But I don't know. And that's also a part of the reason why at the Oscars I'm not really 100% betting on Emma Stone yet to win Best Actress, because even though La La Land was 7 years ago now, I know 7 years, that's still she was kind of in that ingenue kind of thing. So it's like, I don't know. Most of those ingenues don't go on to win a second award. I'm trying to think of any one of them that have through the years. Like Grace Kelly never won a second one. Unless you want to count somebody like Meryl Streep, if she was considered an ingenue when she won for Kramer versus Kramer, that would be one. Sally Field, you could argue maybe, even though she had done a lot of television leading up to that point when she won for Norma Rae. Because she won 2 in 5 years or 6 years, whatever the math is on that. Boy, I don't know. I'm kind of stretching right now. I can't really think of too many younger actresses that are considered like on the scene, like an ingenue, that, boom, they just come back and win a second one within, a considerable amount of time. They're like that. So I don't know. I don't know about that one for her winning too. As far as the rest of the list here, Julia Louis-Dreyfus has a film out called You Hurt My Feelings. That feels very much like a Globes contender. And then sometimes they go younger here. Look out for, it's the gal from Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, who is Abby Ryder Forsten. There's an R in there, Forsten. So I have her in 5th, and then I have Jennifer Lawrence for No Hard Feelings in 6th. The Globes love J-Law. They love their J-Law, that's for sure. But that one, I feel like that was one that, okay, it came out in the summer, and it was talked about for like a week and a half, and then it's kind of been largely forgotten, But, yeah. Otherwise, one that has been kind of creeping up here, we talked about it, or we mentioned it in the other list, Flora and Son. Eve Hewson is the lead in that one. But, yeah, I haven't heard a lot about that one. Otherwise, potentially one that we could be overlooking here. It was an early release. That'd be Halle Bailey for the Little Mermaid. Maybe, just maybe, that one can get in. But I don't know. I'm not super confident on that one just yet. In the supporting races, we'll go with supporting actor first, Robert Downey Jr. out front, and then Ryan Gosling, Robert De Niro in 3rd for me, then Mark Ruffalo, Coleman Domingo in 5th for Color Purple, and I do have Willem Dafoe in the 6th spot here for Poor Things. Again, I wouldn't totally sleep on Sterling K. Brown here, and maybe John Magaro as well. And supporting actress, I have Emily Blunt still up front as a placeholder there for Oppenheimer, then Danielle Brooks, Color Purple, Jodie Foster for Nyad, Julianne Moore for May December, Penelope Cruz for Ferrari, and Devine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. Taraji P. Henson is definitely still in contention there, and Viola Davis is definitely still in contention there for Air. And last but not least, screenplay. I have Oppenheimer out front here, then Poor Things, Barbie in 3rd, Holdovers in 4th, Killers of the Flower Moon in 5th, if they do go to 6, American Fiction, I think, would be an easy 6 pick there. Past Lives could be our winner over an original screenplay. That one could definitely sneak in. Maestro, I think, is going to be in contention here. Anatomy of a Fall, definitely in contention here. And yeah, I think that'll about wrap it up here for this list. So there you go. There's your early Globe stuff as well. Okay, we'll probably be back here. Actually, yeah, one other quick thing. I can mention just really quick the couple movies I've seen. The first one I saw here was actually a few weeks ago now. That's Dumb Money, which has made almost no money at the box office. But I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable movie. It's kind of a little forgettable, It's like it's not one that particularly stuck with me over the last couple weeks. Maybe it was just I think something was wrong with the projector because Paul Dano looked like he was CG the whole movie. I think something was off with my projector or something because I looked like he would be in a scene with someone and I'm like, even though a lot of his scenes are actually by himself where he's in front of, kind of like me in front of a computer screen with various things in the background. But no, it's like whenever he was in a scene with someone else, I was like, okay, they look real, but he looks like he's CG or something. It's like, did they CG in his hair or something? Because the guy he was playing has a particular hairstyle or something. But it just something felt off with that, and I couldn't figure out what the hell it was. Maybe if I see it again on digital on streaming or something, or if I run it on Redbox or something, maybe it'll look better. But something just did not look right when any of his scenes where he was with somebody. Let's see. Otherwise, I mean, most of the performances were solid. I mean, there wasn't anybody that particularly stood out as like great. Like Paul Dano, I wouldn't particularly list as great in this. He's solid. Pete Davidson for his comedic part, he's pretty solid in it. Seth Rogen for his part, he was pretty solid. It's like there wasn't really all that. It's not as engrossing to me as something like The Big Short, which it kind of feels like it's kind of styled after a little bit. It's not quite in that neighborhood. But still entertaining enough. It's something you can invest a little bit into it, if you get my joke. If you like the stock, if you will. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's okay, not particularly memorable, but yeah. So what did I rate that one? Like that's definitely a 7 out of 10 for me. It's definitely not one that I would like, shout from the rooftops. Oh, this is one of my favorite films of the year. No, we're not in that territory yet at all. And then the other one was The Exorcist Believer. Also that one even more so, a blah film. Just, it made me over the weekend here. I had a little bit of time, so I went back and rewatched most of the original Exorcist. I kind of, again, for me, I feel like with that one over time, it's like, yeah, I liked it a lot when I was first watching it, but I've always had some problems with the Father Karras character. Not as far as his actual character, but just those scenes, I just never could get invested in them. I just never felt like I was all that invested in them. My brother recently saw it, and he's kind of getting into some horror films once in a while. But he said that was one of his favorite characters was Father Karras, and I'm like, I don't know. When I was, when I watched the movie, or especially when I was first watching it, it was like, oh yeah, I was totally into the possession scenes and the more disturbing stuff. It's like, that's what you're there for. But the Father Karras stuff, I just got bored. I just got immediately bored when I was first watching it. Now, that might change over time, and I might grow to appreciate those scenes and stuff more, but I don't know. It's still something where I'm like, I was kind of getting bored, and I was fast-forwarding through some of that stuff. But it made, seeing this new one made me want to go back to the original and say, yeah, that's how you do it. Because this new one, it's just, the thing is, with the original Exorcist, it was a rule breaker. That first Exorcist broke so many rules. A lot of violence, a lot of language, a lot of disturbing content, a lot of stuff, especially at the time that, people would have very, very much objected to. And if that film had been made, even as much as a decade later in the Reagan years, the MPAA would have taken a hatchet to that film, and you wouldn't have gotten nearly the stuff that you got in that film. So it's a very kind of landmark film for its time, and it was obviously extremely shocking. You had people fainting in the theater, running out of the theater, and vomiting out in the lobbies and stuff. Which that's happened to a few other films over the years. But no, it was like it obviously was a big deal at the time. And now this new one, it's like, okay, well, we're very much it's a little more of a saturated market now. When The Exorcist came out, there wasn't really too much to compare it to. We've seen more possession films. We've seen those Paranormal Activity films. We've seen all sorts of other films that have anything and everything to do with possession and stuff. So there's nothing, including several sequels, of course, to The Exorcist and spin-offs and stuff. So it's not as remarkable. I also feel like audiences are really kind of getting, especially with The Flash, the way that one performed. Audiences are getting a little burned out on what's now become a gimmick of, okay, we're doing this legacy sequel or this long-awaited sequel, and we're bringing back this character, or we're bringing back this character. It's like the audiences are kind of getting over it. They're kind of like, okay, yeah, we did that with Star Wars. Yep, we did that with Indiana Jones twice, technically. We did that with The Flash. We did that with Spider-Man. We did that with, you can probably name like 4 or 5 other ones. Yeah, it feels like Ellen Burstyn coming back. It didn't move the needle at all. Again, early on, I would have said, yeah, the 40 million, yeah, probably should have done more, but it ended up doing like 25 or a little over 25. Yeah, not great. And it wasn't a great film on top of it. It's too bad to see actors like Leslie Odom Jr. totally wasted in it. And Dowd totally wasted in it. It feels like it's not really very striking at all. Again, there's nothing in it. It's got the nods to the original with like, certain colors being vomited up, of course, and heads twisting and all that fun stuff, and certain phrases that, that would be in the original that, are phallic or very, whatever, But yeah, it just didn't feel like this one moved the needle at all. It wasn't outstanding at all. It was a very, very average horror film at this point. There were a couple times where, there's a couple easy jump scares that, okay, I'll admit I got burned on, but a couple of the other ones, nope, you can totally see what's coming and stuff. So it's, yeah, not a particularly great film, not a particularly memorable film. It's not garbage. It's not hot garbage. It's not like the worst thing ever, but a 4 out of 10. I never found myself truly 100% bored, but I never found myself as invested as you are in the original. Like, when Regan turns in the original film and she starts to get more and more and more evil, you do feel, even though you're kind of shocked by it, at the end of the day, you feel bad for that little girl, because she didn't ask for this. She didn't, particularly volunteer herself to be possessed by Pazuzu or whatever it was in the original film. And you don't have that great build up to Father Merrin coming back like he does in The Exorcist. So yeah, you don't have. There's a lot of things that this new film is missing for sure. But at the end of the day, is it the worst thing ever? No. Would I pay to see it again? Probably not. So yeah, that's my kind of brief-ish feelings on those. So that's what I got for you today. We'll probably be back here probably in a couple weeks-ish. Yeah, last week of October, maybe very early November. And then we'll get into SAG stuff. We'll get into our official predictions for early frontrunners, and we'll probably also take a look at some tech categories next time. Probably not all of them. Like we might glance a little bit at the visual effects category. We might take a closer look at like the animated feature category. We might dig into cinematography, film editing, and the design categories, maybe even makeup. So yeah, we'll kind of get into those next time, and we'll kind of take a few shots, because we do have actually little ways to go. I think it'll be late December, early January before we get our long lists for the Oscars for those certain tech categories. So we will sign off and be back with you next time.